Last weekend totally threw the title race open, although the majority of the games did follow the script. The big teams beat the weird teams. We've seen Arsenal get another high-scoring victory to compound the form that they've been having, as well as Liverpool, again, going from strength to strength in the early Saturday kickoff, getting a really energetic, an impressive, 4-1 victory with Brentford. But Man City dropping points at home at Chelsea was definitely not in the script. I predicted something like 5 or 6-0 to City. I really thought they were going to wipe the floor with Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea, who have been terrible this year. But that draw has really opened it up into a three-way title race unlike any I think we've ever seen before. Liverpool sitting atop the now on 57 points, City 56 and Arsenal 55. They've really cut themselves off from those would-be challengers of Aston Villa and Tottenham, who are still in a really strong position looking at Champions League football next year. And the rest of the table, there's so many runners and riders that have still got so many hopes of trying to get into the top half, as well as some clubs that are going to try and disconnect themselves from the bottom. I'm locking in my football predictions all across European football on Pooky.gg. If you're interested in joining in and predicting the scores along with me, you can do so by clicking on the link that's in the description of the video. By clicking on that link, you do support all the content here at the channel, and I thank you in advance if you do so. If you get stuck or if you need any help, just jump into the comment section and I'll come and sort you out. But as you can see, for our first crack at the whip, putting the scores in and trying to finish as high on the leaderboard as we possibly can, we were so close. Kind of, but yet so far. We went with a 4-2 prediction in the Liverpool game. It finished 4-1. 3-2 for the Villa was the prediction. It was 2-1. I talked myself off of a 5 or a 6-0 for Arsenal and went with 4-0, sadly. We got the 2-1 for Tottenham Wolves, just the wrong way round. And the Desmond 2-2 that we went for in Newcastle Bournemouth ended up being a convincing Newcastle win in the end, 3-1. And Luton just let us down at the end. We were expecting a Desmond 2-2, a 2-2 draw with Luton Man United, but Man United just got away with the 3 points on that one. And check this out, guys. I thought Leverkusen Heidenheim would have been a wee bit more exciting. I went with the 4-2, ended up being the 2-1. But I went with the Desmond 2-2 for the Bayern Bochum game. I knew Bochum weren't going to be the pushovers, and this would have been a banana skin result. I really wanted them to beat Bayern, and I'm gutted I never picked it because that would have been a huge differential result. Obviously, Bochum did get the win on the day and put Thomas Tuchel under all the pressure that he's been under, Now, at the moment, every team is sitting on 25 games played. And by the time this video is out, Liverpool will have played Luton, and that's going to be where the game week starts. That's going to be where our first prediction kicks us off, because Liverpool, this isn't a game in hand. This is their first game in position, top of the table, 1 point clear. They need to get the job done here to maintain that status and keep destiny in their own hands, which I know is going to be the #1 priority for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. Liverpool have been on fantastic form, scoring 3 or more goals consistently home and away over recent matches. And although Luton have been doing better and better, they have been the plucky underdog, the plucky up, fighting for the relegation, survival. Nothing to lose on the table, but I think at Anfield, which by the way I've played on some surface and all the rest of it, this is going to be I think this is going to be a huge midweek one under the floodlights for Liverpool potentially, that really does say we are winning the league this year. And I bottled it out as saying 5 or 6 for Arsenal versus Burnley, and this feels like that sort of fixture again. Also, I'm going to go with 6. There is no Alisson, and there's a few injuries at Liverpool. Do they concede? I think that's actually a really tough element of this. I think that, they could blow Luton out the water here, but you really cannot completely write them off here. Maybe I'm talking myself off the ledge here, but I really do think this could be a huge midweek result, especially with City only narrowly beating Brentford right at the end there, 1-0. I'm going to go Liverpool 5, Luton 0. Now we're getting to the business end of the season, and Unai Emery's Aston Villa really need to kick into gear real quickly. They've not got the pressure of midweek European football for now, but that's going to come, and that's going to add a lot of extra pressure to the Premier League campaign that promised so much. Before this season, we would look at the form table, we would look at, how Aston Villa progressed over the calendar year and these different things. They were sitting top and sitting second. But now when you look at any sort of form chart, Aston Villa don't really pop up anywhere significant. They're at home this weekend to a Nottingham Forest team that are starting to, find some courage in attack and really start to get, more, they're scoring more goals, they're making themselves more of a threat in every single match so far. But I do feel Aston Villa are probably going to be in a good position here to score a lot of goals. Nottingham Forest do concede a fair amount on the road, and Aston Villa at home love to score goals galore. This is a game I could see being really feisty all the way through the 90 minutes. Both teams love to use their bench for better or for worse in some cases. And yeah, I think the 3 points for Aston Villa really needs to keep them in that Champions League hunt before the fixture list starts to get on top of them. And Nottingham Forest are still trying to keep themselves disconnected from the bottom of the table. So, with the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi, Alanga, Forest have some weapons. Aston Villa but do have a very resolute defence. But the one thing I think Aston Villa maybe have going in their favour that the previous teams that Nottingham Forest have been playing and scoring a lot of goals against is their goalkeeper. Emi Martinez is a cut above virtually every keeper in the division. Sadly, Dubravka, the Newcastle number 2, and Alphonse Areola have conceded some goals to Nottingham Forest in the last couple of games. Yeah, I know, but Emi Martinez, he can concede one. He is one for, maybe making a risky kind of move once in a while or whatever, but in between the sticks, defending, those counter-attacks, I think he's, one of the best in the world, quite clearly. So I do think that, Aston Villa will have the potential to keep Nottingham Forest down to maybe a goal or so. I'm not too sure where I really fall on this one, but I do think the form Forest are in, they're definitely scoring a goal in this one. And Villa, for me, like their attacking unit at home, it's undeniable. They score 2 to 3 goals on average every single home game, and I don't really see anything defensively from Forest that would get me away from Aston Villa scoring that level of goals. I'm going to lock in a 3-1 on this. It feels like football fans everywhere are going to be missing out with Man United and Fulham being scheduled for Saturday at 3 o'clock. If you're in the UK, you won't be able to watch this on the television live, and I think this is going to be one of the most exciting games of the weekend. Man United are in a good kind of vein of form at the moment. They're sitting in a nice position in the league, starting to get some good results together by hook or by crook, and with all the off-pitch stuff kind of lightening up even more, off of, the Jim Ratcliffe stuff and all the rest of it, I think Old Trafford is probably going to be a very good home venue for this Man United team come this weekend. But Fulham are no pushovers. They are not scared of anyone. In almost every game Fulham have been playing this year, they have been going for the jugular, all-out attack football. And I really do think this one is going to be end-to-end. Both teams are going to concede goals, and both teams have got players that are going to be up for the cup and going to be, out to impress in a big, big way. Man United, for me, are definitely going to score a goal or two in this one, no doubt about it. I think they could maybe even get up to 3 goals being at home with all the... I think there's going to be a real feel-good atmosphere in Old Trafford, sadly, for this weekend. And Fulham, with the sort of players and the talent they've got, there's no way they're not going to get a goal or two in at this Man United team. I don't think Fulham will quite have enough to get the victory here. Is it a bit of a convincing result, perhaps, for Man United? I'm going to go for a 4-2. I can imagine at the end of the game, all the Man United loving that's going to happen. And yeah, I do think Fulham score more than one, so I think that's probably going to have to be Man United 4, Fulham 2. Roy Hodgson, sadly, has been relieved of his duties as Crystal Palace manager, but the number 1 candidate tipped on this channel to replace him in the summer. Well, you're probably thinking, why replace him in the summer, Quinny? Because it was obvious they were going to have to replace him at some point. Ole Glasner is now in situ at Crystal Palace, and really I do feel that this is going to be the next De Zerbi kind of coach to come into the league. Glasner knows his stuff, is a very good tactical manager, and his style of play is unique enough that it will affect a lot of teams. They're going to have to really judge how they're going to be lining up to Crystal Palace. And like we've seen in the opening fixture of his reign, the 1-1 draw with Everton, he is going to transplant the Frankfurt system that won him the Europa League into this Crystal Palace team. This weekend they're at home to Burnley, and normally we don't associate a lot of goals with Crystal Palace, but the routes to goal that they're going to find with the players they already have at the club in this Ole Glasner system, I think Burnley are not going to have any chance. The style of football that this guy brings and the opportunities that Burnley could give them, I could really see Palace having a real wow moment over this weekend, and I think they could score 3 or 4 quite comfortably. And yeah, with the system they play defensively, I think this could be quite a humiliating one for Burnley, unfortunately. I'm going to go with Palace 4, Burnley 0. The Ole Glasner era is going to get off with a bang. I think Brighton at home at Everton is probably going to be my contender for Boarfest, last on match of the day for Saturday, if not the entire weekend. Both teams have got a lot going on now. Everton are fighting this uphill climb forever of the points deductions and fighting for their Premier League survival, which I think they're probably going to get in the end. And Brighton, hovering around 7, 6, 8, that kind of level at the table. Want to be in European football for next year. Still have European football on the horizon. And both, Brighton have got a big squad they like to manage and, negotiate all the different fixtures with, whereas Everton are going best 11, every game's a final coming into this. And I can really see this one being a bit of a stalemate, to be quite honest with you. Everton going away to Brighton, if they can get a draw before the game goes on, they'd probably take that off you. Brighton being at home will try and win the game, of course, and that's just going to create opportunities in the match. Both teams are going to contest this fiercely. I've got no two ways about it. But I could really see this being a game that ends up something like 1-1 or 0-0. Maybe somebody could win it by 1-0, but yeah, I think this is going to be last on match of the day. I'm going for a 1-each draw. Now, when you look at the head-to-head, Man City away to Bournemouth looks like this should be a walk in the park for Man City. But let me tell you, some of these results that Man City have been getting at Bournemouth over the years have been nail-biters. A few of them have been quite last minute and on a knife edge. So historically, this Man City team doesn't always, show up to the vitality and just rule the roost. Yes, they've got that in them against any team, of course. And with the form that they're in at the moment after dropping those points to Chelsea, there's a lot of pressure on them to get in amongst it with Liverpool and Arsenal and put big scorelines on the board as well as collect the 3 points. Bournemouth, though, have been keeping score lines really tight and pretty low, and Andoni Iraola has been getting a lot of plaudits and praise this season for how Bournemouth have been playing and managing to get results. But I do think this is going to be a quality situation where Man City will just come out with the win in the end. But I don't think they're going to get out of this game with a clean sheet. I think Bournemouth have definitely got a goal or two in them, and with Man City playing midweek, I'm going to go with 2 goals because I do think the Man City defence, with the amount of chopping and changing we've seen, is definitely the weakest area of the team. But with Haaland just about getting a goal there midweek, missing out at the weekend, but Bernardo Silva, Foden, Alvarez, De Bruyne, everyone's in and cooking at the moment. This Iraola team might be susceptible conceding a few against this Man City team. And although I think they could keep this game tight, Man City do love to keep the pressure on all the way to the end. I'm going to go with Man City 3, Bournemouth 1. Without doubt, the most exciting game this weekend in the Premier League is Arsenal at home in Newcastle under the floodlights. An 8 o'clock kickoff. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Unless you're a Newcastle fan. What a horrible game if you're an away fan. How the Geordies are going to go home after this one, I've got no idea. But this is going to be an absolute blockbuster of a game. Arsenal are in incredible form, trying to keep themselves in the title race and trying to get into that top spot. And they have been scoring goals for fun. It feels like the whole team has really clicked and they are unstoppable at the moment. But this is the exact sort of game that Eddie Howe's Newcastle have been getting results in. Even with their backs to the wall, even with the injury crises that they've been managing all the way through the season. The big games against the big teams, particularly away from home, when they're not going to have all the possession, really does play into their game model. And, Newcastle can get a result in this. No two ways about it. Getting a victory in this game would do so much for Newcastle's season, but there's no way that Arsenal are going to want to think about the consequences of dropping points in this one. Arsenal will definitely want to come into this match trying to keep those high standards of scoring 3 or more goals, but I do think that Newcastle defensively are better than the average team that they've been coming up against recently. They'll probably, with it being at the Emirates, I do think 3 goals is going to happen for this one. And Newcastle, I'm not too sure they've got 3 goals in them in this one, but with it being late at night, under the floodlights, like I say, Eddie Howe, Newcastle, they tend to get right in amongst it in these fixtures. I can't quite give Newcastle a point in this one. I'm going to go with Arsenal 3, Newcastle 2. Wolves have had one of the most challenging seasons, no two ways about it. Injuries, VAR decisions, you name it. If it could go wrong, it's happened to Wolves. Top man, Cunha, out for the remainder of the season, but they have got a huge opportunity on their hands this weekend playing Sheffield United. Wolves are currently 11th in the table on 35 points, and if some of the teams above them drop points, they collect the result here, which is probably a little bit overdue for them with how adventurous has been playing and how unlucky they've been in some previous games not to get the points over the line. 3 points for Gary O'Neill's men here could catapult them as high as 8th or 7th in the league. Sheffield United are the worst team in the Premier League this season away from home, and really away from home. Even against a Crystal Palace team that wasn't renowned for scoring goals, they are shipping them left and right, and it does feel like things are going from bad to worse for Premier League managers at Sheffield United. Now, Hwang is in the building, so I'm not too sure for the first 60 minutes how much of an absence Matthias Cunha's presence will be. This style of football Gary O'Neill has Wolves playing, I think at Molineux, they are going to be on to entertain and they are going to want to have a very impressive performance to really give the fans something to cheer about, to get them into the top half of the table. I see Wolves scoring 3 goals in this game, no two ways about it. Sheffield United do have a bit of a threat to score a goal. Wolves' defence isn't incredible, but I do think it's good enough, and I do think at home, with the likes of Lamina, João Gomez, Pedro Neto, Sarabia, I think that they've got such a great composition in that midfield to manage the game at both ends. I think this is going to be a great result for Wolves. It's going to be 3-0. Looking at the form table, West Ham versus Brentford feels like the Losers' Cup. These guys cannot buy 3 points at all over the last series of matches. Now, David Moyes is under a lot of pressure at the moment, whereas Thomas Frank doesn't really seem to be. Brentford are in a pretty good shape this season and are always going to be in amongst that mid-table section. And a good season for them is kind of breaking into 8th and 7th or whatever. But West Ham expect much, much more, and dropping these points only increases the pressure. Monday night, under the floodlights, all eyes, all attention is going to be on West Ham, and they are going to be expected to get a really good result at home to Brentford. Now, Brentford away from home are really got the worst form you could imagine to see, and West Ham should have a great opportunity to get a win at home and really get their form back on track for this season. But their home form is not good reading at all. There's not many goals. Goals are hard to come by for the Hammers at the moment. But I do think with this being on a Monday night, Brentford really need the points. They should come out and give spaces for West Ham to run into. This could be quite an open game, but I'm getting a bit of deja vu to Crystal Palace Everton on the Monday night. And I think that deja vu is going to put me into the only Desmond Tutu the prediction that we're doing this weekend. So I think West Ham 2, Brentford 2. Now, I think the weekend is going to start off with a real football lover party. Leverkusen are playing Friday night at home to Mainz. They're cruising at the top of the Bundesliga. Everyone is after a piece of Xabi Alonso, never mind the players themselves. And this is going to be a game that I think Leverkusen are going to really puff the chest out, get a great result, and really say, we are going to go and win the Bundesliga. Leverkusen, although they're a very all-out attack, gung-ho team, they're not reckless. They don't actually concede that many goals. And, you know, it's not as if they get into the realms of scoring over 4 goals that often. So when I say a convincing result, what does that really mean? Well, Mainz have scored 17 goals this season out of 22 matches and lie second bottom. So at home on a Friday night, Leverkusen really need to break the mold for this game. I don't expect there to be much rotation from Xabi Alonso. I think he's going to go as full strength as possible, secure the 3 points, keep the dominance at the top of the table, and I think we could see something incredible in Leverkusen 5, Mainz 0. And on Saturday, we've got one of those Bundesliga matches that over the years is becoming somewhat of a fixture on the football calendar. Bayern Munich at home to Leipzig is never ever dull. There's always a lot of goals in this game, and it can always be quite tightly fought. And, you know, Leipzig are in a real funny spot at the moment, not really got a real presence in the leagues. You know, they're not going to have a say in the title race, and in European football, it's much the same situation. So nothing to lose for them in that regard, but all the pressure, all the focus is on Bayern Munich, and reports are now coming out from Bavaria that Thomas Tuchel is going to depart the club in the summer, but Joshua Kimmich has no future at the club under Thomas Tuchel, and if the captain isn't going to play in this, what does that mean for the rest of the team? The morale in the changing room, the tactics, etc., etc. Do we get a result in this game where Leipzig are going to concede a goal or two? No two ways about it. Harry Kane, Sané at home at the Allianz Arena. Bayern are going to score a goal or two. Let's say they're going to score 2. But with such a fragmented Bayern Munich squad, there might be not as much love coming from the stands. And Leipzig wanting to show up and spoil the party. They've got the weapons at their disposal to go and hurt teams like Bayern Munich, especially when they are going to have more possession and, you know, come on to Leipzig. That's exactly what they want, to turn the ball over quickly, play in transition and go and win the match. I'm going to go with Leipzig 4, Bayern Munich 2. I'm not going to talk myself out of it like I did last week with Bochum. It's going to be a huge week of football across Europe this weekend, and I've got all my predictions locked in now. If you want to play along, don't forget to hit the link. It's in the description of the video. By doing that, you support the content here, of course, and I thank you in advance if you do so. If you get stuck, I'll come into the comment section and help you out if you let me know. On screen there now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll catch you next time.